Hey everyone, today we'll be going over the crazy parking template. And if you're not familiar, the crazy parking effect, it's a series at this point, and the creator Bartel Games, he makes really cool effects with 3D physics and just really cool games. So I had meant to do a tutorial for a while now, but in the Discord group, a really good tutorial was posted by NeoNyke. And if you're not familiar, this is how it works. So you hit record, and the goal is to tap the screen at around the right time so you can get as close to the parking spot. I'm not too good at this, but all right, let's tap now. And as you can see, there's a score at the end. You can hit the other vehicles. Really good, really cool. So let's go about making changes. All right, so before we make any changes, the link to the effect will be in the description below, so you can go ahead and just download it so you can follow along, or if you just want to make your own changes. So we're going to take a look over here at the hierarchy panel. So I'm just going to collapse some of these items. So this, let's zoom out because it is a pretty big space. So this entire thing holds the parking lot and the cars over here. Let's zoom in. Pretty big image. There we go. Yeah, so alt space sidewalk. This hosts the ground that you're on, the two cars. And if you would like to change this, you just have to delete this and replace it with, I guess, another atmosphere. But for this video, the only thing I'll probably be changing is the car that we're driving. So that's what this is. This is directional light. This is just more light for the scene. And this is a camera. So picture how the camera operates. It's similar to how our eyes operate. So anything in my direct line of sight, it's unless I move, when that thing moves, it moves further away from me. So it looks to get smaller. So the reason that, let's restart this. The reason that we're kind of following the car and it doesn't just get smaller in the distance is because the camera is literally following the car. And you'll see that in the script a little bit later. But after that, we have the car object. So the car object has this bluish, I guess, physics icon, kind of looks like a snowball, because physics is applied to the object. And if we go over to the right side to the inspector panel, you can see rigid body has been applied. And that allows, well, let's click the question mark icon, which is pretty good if you want to learn about specific things in Effect House. So it applies mass and physical properties to 3D objects, allowing you to simulate how they would move in a physical space. So it just makes it operate as how things operate in the real world in terms of physics capabilities. So right now, the car is somewhat being pushed forward. So that's why it looks like it's, I guess, driving or accelerating, because you're adding force from, I guess, behind the car, launching it forward. So as it drives, it just looks as if it's driving or accelerating. It also has a box glider. Now, if you're familiar with 3D games, you know that every character or certain things have like a hitbox. So this basically is, let's collapse the visual scripting menu. Let's tilt this for a bit. Let's zoom in. If you realize, the car has a green box around it. So what this is the, let's click on it, the box glider. So this green outline basically says, okay, any point on this green box, if it gets hit, then, simulate physics properties. So it's better to, I guess, performance-wise, to use a box. A lot of programs have like a fit to mesh kind of thing, and I believe this does have fit to mesh, but it is best to use a hitbox, especially when the build is kind of boxy. It's a lot less for the computer to calculate, and given that this is going on a phone, it's a lot better for performance. Was anything added? Physics matter was added, and Yeah, that's basically a rigid body. Make it very physics, 3D physics, and box glider for collisions. Under here, we have the 2D camera, and the 2D camera holds all our 2D objects. And specifically right now, we have score. It's set invisible. So just to show you what that looks like, final score. And it is a parent of the text. So basically, if we turn this invisible or we turn it back visible, you can see it shows not only just the score text, which is final score, it also shows the let's rename this the end number so it makes a bit of more, like, it makes a lot more sense to, I guess, when we're visiting it. But when this is end number, when we make changes to score, it also affects the end number. So if we set it visible, both are invisible. If we set it visible, then both are visible. So yeah, as far as the hierarchy panel, that's what's going on over there. So if we go down to the assets panel, this is where all the assets that we've that are imported to the project, like the sidewalk and parking lot, the car, physics matters, textures, all of that, they're stored in the asset panel. So let's head over to the visual scripting menu. And you can just slide over here and pull this up. And now we have a lot more space to see what's going on. Let's zoom in. So I'm going to break this up into sections. And again, this is really great work. So when the screen is tapped, a sequence begins. The first procedure is it goes to the audio resource controller. So basically, when the screen is tapped, it plays a bit of music. We don't have it imported, but if you'd like, you could import an audio clip, add it there, and you'll be able to play some music as soon as the screen is tapped. So you could add like a drifting sound. So basically, the car is driving, you tap the screen. You could add like a skirt or some sort of, car screeching sound. The next procedure, let's click on this so we can follow it, is transit by time to damping. So with damping, I believe it is originally set to, let's go back over here. It's originally set to 0. So when we make that turn for the car, by turning the damping up, it simulates that sudden stop. So it's not as slippery. The traction, you're playing around with the traction. So I believe it goes up from 0.5 to 0.9. And that is what allows the car, or at least the physics components of the car, to make it just spin around and then slowly just stop. And let's see, under here, so this is the acceleration controller. So when the video starts, when you start recording, technically you add -20, or you set the acceleration to -20. So let's play around with that. Let's say we set it to 20 and then we record, it starts reversing. So basically what's going on is we're applying force. I spoke about that a bit earlier, but we're applying force, and by setting it to -20, we're applying 20 force in a negative Z direction. Or I guess in layman's terms, if you're following the axes of the car, by just applying that negative 20 force, it's just simulating pushing it. So you're just pushing the car, and the specific rigid body that you're pushing is for the car. So yeah, let's just, and then you can play a sound. Under here, we have where all the score is. And basically in this section, you're just seeing how far the car is from that yellow parking spot. Because this gets a bit technical. You're seeing how far it is from the parking spot, and then you're just calculating score. There is a collision section over here, and basically what's going on in here, I took a look inside the subgraphs. If the car hits any of the two parked cars, you lose some score from it. And after all of that calculation is done, it converts it into a number, and then, well, it converts the number into a string, and then that gets placed in the text material. It gets placed in the text, which is n number. All right, so let's go about importing our own vehicle. So let's import. Let's browse the asset library actually. So in the 3D section, a lot of it is some are from the TikTok team themselves, or we can start getting stuff from Sketchfab. So I'm already signed in, but once you hit 3D, sometimes it's going to ask you to just sign into Sketchfab. So pretty good to just create an account just so you can access this entire library. So let's go low poly car. And I'm specifically going low poly, which is just low polygon. It's a lot smaller, and it takes up a lot less space. So let's see what, the bad cruiser. Just hit import, and again, it's just gonna ask you to accept, and and it's imported. All right, now that it's imported, let's head back to the visual scripting window. Let's get away from that for a bit. Reset the view so I can get us closer to the original car. And we're gonna move the Bat Cruiser. We're gonna move this object where you see the 3D cube icon. That is the object, this is the folder. Moving both should be fine, but I just like moving the object. Find I get a lot less bugs that way. So let's just move it over to the hierarchy panel. As you can see, it's humongous. So let's go over to the right in the expector panel and set the scale to 0.1. Accidentally hit save there, but never a bad idea to save. So let's go there. And 0.1 puts us in a pretty good spot. You do realize it's flipped. So let's set the Y rotation to 180, and that flips it forward. It is a little bit big, so let's go 0.08. Perfect. And now we can see that the size is pretty close. So let's add the physics capabilities. So first, you just hit add component, 3D physics, and we're going to start with rigid body. And again, let's just turn the simulator on so you can see what's going on. Our car falls through the floor. So without rigid body on, it would kind of just stay in dead space. But when you say, okay, act as a real object, then, you know, physics is being applied to it. So gravity, external forces, external torque, all that stuff. So let's set rigid body back on, and it falls to the floor. So great. We're also going to add a box collider, and click physics matter, and just set this here. So if you've realized, there is no green outline, even though we've added the box collider. Well, that's because we imported a really big 3D object. So we have to enlarge the box collider, even though we made the Batmobile smaller. So let's try 300. Let's set the Y to 300 as well. I'm seeing a bit of green, and the Z to 300. So we now have something to work with. Let's get the top-down view. So let's set the Z to 450. Let's see how that looks. We get a lot of it in, but let's see if we can try 460. The points at the end, let's go 480. I like it, but 500 is probably the best. Perfect. All right, so the Y, or I believe the X is fine. Let's just make it a bit thinner so it really fits it. Perfect. So all that's left is the Y. So it perfectly encapsulates the top, but underneath it's poking underneath the ground. So let's set that to 150. And probably still too big. Set to 100. And now if you've realized the position in which it is in the Y direction, it's just poking through the ground. It's not at the top. So that's where offset comes in, which is just readjusting the position of the box glider. So if we say offset 100, it kind of pushes it up. So let's try 60. And the larger you go, the higher it goes. The lower you go, the lower it goes. So let's see. 60 works, but now let's set this to 140. Or at least 130. And then set this to 70. And that's pretty good. Now all that's left to do is to replace wherever car is in the visual scripting with the bat cruiser. And also, let's see if we can snag the car's position. So let's go over here. Ta-da. Yeah, just take the X, Y, and the Z from the car and move it over, because the car is going to go directly forward into the space. So if we had kept the Batmobile in the same position, it would have just kept crashing into one of the red cars. All right, let's copy the B, the Y, mark out V, and then the Z. And then there we go. Now it's exactly where the car is. So wherever we see car or some components of the car, we're just going to replace it with the Bat Cruiser. So right here we have the set transform. And because we're going from 0 to 180, we can't use the Bat Cruiser because we had set the rotation to 180. So it's just going to be like, it's going to move in the wrong direction. So for that, we're going to go to source and the Bat Cruiser, whatever your first, I guess, the first parent object underneath the title. So for this, we have the car object and then we have O underneath it. So for the Bat Cruiser, the first parent object under that is skeleton and render. So just change that. Then it's easy after that. Wherever you see car, hit Bat Cruiser. Over here we have car again, Bat Cruiser. Car, Bat Cruiser. Now we're getting it. All right, so and then finally, we'll just head over to the collision detection section. So in the subgraphs, again, what this section is doing, it's checking to see if the two red cars that are in the distance, if they got collided into, and the only way they can get that collision is if our car hits them. So because it was checking the red car, let's just go in here and just switch that somewhere here. Yes, we just switched that with the Batmobile. Or Bat Cruiser. Get out of here. Go here. And just switch it with the Bat Cruiser. Now at this point, we can delete the car object, cross our fingers, and just reset view over here and hit play. So let's hit record. And when we tap the screen, perfect. You do realize if we keep tapping the screen, it just keeps spinning. So let's see if we can fix that. And that happens because it is on screen tap. So no matter how many times you tap the screen, this will happen. What we can do is change that to add a do once. I believe there's another mention of screen tap somewhere here. Let's start. That's update. And I believe this is it. Yeah, let's check. So let's record. I'm getting better. Now there is a glitch when we make changes that the end number doesn't show. And all you have to do is just check it and then uncheck it. Now when we record, the score shows. And perfect. Okay. Just remember to wherever you see where the car was previously, just try to make that change in the collision detection section, and wherever else. I'm just making sure I didn't miss anything. Collision, perfect, and seems all is well. And I guess finally, if there is if you want to make changes, aesthetic changes to the effects, if you click score, the final score you see here, it's not really text, it's a texture image. So if you wanted to import your own that says score or your score, and I guess font in a font that you like or text that you like, you just change it there. For the number, because it's dynamically being generated in the effect itself, you have to use the text component. You can use images, but that would be a lot more work. We have, there should be a font selection, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe in another update, I did hear word of that. But you have a lot of colors, color options. Set this to blue. Shadow color, we could maybe set that to black. Now if we hit play, ooh, there's still a screen tap somewhere here. Screen tap, do once. You can hit the search in the visual scripting window. And there's only one. That's impossible. But if you find it in the project file, just attach a do once so it doesn't keep spinning. Oh, it was only done once, my mistake. And there you have it. So yeah, this was the crazy parking template. And again, special thanks to NeoNyke. This was great. Definitely do join the Effect House Discord. We have a lot of cool templates, a lot of cool people, a lot of cool creators. So again, the link will be in the description for the download. And if there's any other effect that you would like to see on this channel, a lot of templates are coming and a lot of videos are coming. But if there is a special request, just leave it in the comments. And yeah, until next time.